Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video for the warships, and in this video we will be taking a look at the new ships devlog. That's right, Wargaming come up with the announcement yesterday that they are coming up with several premiums including 3 tier 10s and one submarine that is also tier 10. That is kinda insane. The amount of ships at tier 10 for a premium that Wargaming kinda spamming is just crazy. I know it really gives them a lot of money if someone buys a tier 10, but that amount of tier 10s is kinda baffling to my mind. But anyways, we will talk about that. And if you do find this video useful, and I will explain the stats later on, you can check out the chapters. They are in the description of this video down below, so don't worry about that. We will talk about these ships in summary, and then we will talk in detail. So definitely, if you do find this video useful as a new viewer, definitely subscribe. Let's talk about these ships in summary. So we have the Pan-Asian cruiser Lanzhou at tier 7. I'm sure this probably gonna be coming, I would say, in the Santa event in December, where they will probably going to be adding that in the event pass. So we will have this thing, a cruiser with, I think, Soviet guns, 180mm guns, and having a high precision spotter plane. That is the main gimmick of this ship. And then we have the next cruiser, which is German Nurnberg 44 at tier 7. Probably again the same thing. One will be in the free battle pass in December of the Santa crates event, and the second will be onto the paid. Now we probably need to see what ship will be for, whether it's going to be for paid or the free. We will eventually find out. But this also have the special penetration on AP with improved ricochet angle. So Nurnberg 44 is a tier 6 tech tree cruiser, but a premium placed at tier 7. That's what basically it looks like. And the next ship is going to be the French battleship Roussillon. I'm sorry guys, I did have completely butchered the name. You can always let me know in the comments, what do you call it? How do you pronunciate this thing? I'm sorry if anyone just felt bad about that, what I have said, but yeah. This tier 9 French battleship is also very interesting because it having the Alsace hull, which you find on a tier 9 tech tree cruiser, tier 9 tech tree battleship, the French one, or you maybe can compare it with a Bourgogne, which is a steel battleship at tier 10 as a premium or freemium. But in this case, it has 406mm guns, which you will see if I give you a summary. You can see 9 406mm guns, and if I have looked at the stats of these guns, what I really think they might be, or I would say they can be compared to that of Champagne, which is a tier 8 very powerful sniper battleship. So if you get 9 guns with really good sigma parameter, I don't know, maybe it can be true for the guns that we have the Champagne guns at tier 9 for this ship. We will eventually find out. That will make it very interesting. But it does also have like the engine boost, the main battery reload booster, everything that French ships get, and also the spotting aircraft, which also kinda sort of confirms this, that this actually might be a Champagne guns, because Champagne also at tier 8 does have this spotting aircraft to get extraordinary good range, and this also have, like, by the way, really good range. We will talk about that. We have then the German cruiser Bremen at tier 10, which probably a lot of players might be really interested in if they like tier 8 cruiser mains. So this is a mains, but a big upgrade. Instead of having 12 guns, now it has 1650mm guns. So yeah, this is kind of nuts. And also, by the way, it does have improved torpedoes with the range. So those torpedoes are pretty useful in this case. And you have quite a lot of them, even though they are not super damaging, which is kind of typical of German ships. And you can see here, the numbers are here. We will talk about that. And then we will have the Aki, which is the Japanese battleship at tier 10. Now this is Yamato hull. This is a Yamato hull that does not have the back turret. A Yamato hull Aki does not have a back turret. Instead, it gets, I would say, battle cruiser dispersion. So a better dispersion ellipse than Yamato. You can see that it is pretty much playing similar to Yamato and Louisiana. So what is this word? Or I would say, what is this letter? Louisiana. Well, that's right. It's actually a hybrid battleship. So you do have the planes with the Yamato guns, 460mm guns. Yeah, that's pretty insane. I can't believe it. And having better dispersion overall as well compared to Yamato with 2.1 Sigma. And then we have the American cruiser Hawaii at tier 10 that have Alaska hull and having Austin guns. With also having the access to FK. So I would say destroyer caliber guns, having the radar, which is kinda nuts. Like, and that's the 3 ships that I was talking about. They will be available in the Steel Wheel event in December. So better save your steel, because these are very interesting ships, that's for sure. And then last but not the least, actually a real submarine. Can you believe this? It's actually a real submarine. French Submarine Surcouf at tier 10 is a real submarine that has 203mm guns. Yeah, I think it does have 203mm gun turret. And funny enough, it does going to have a main battery reload booster and a plane-based ASW. A Surcouf having plane-based ASW on this submarine is just ridiculous. And this is the older ship that they are coming up with, showing us the camo, and then they have basically shown us the epic rarities of the upcoming ships, which you can see here. So that is basically it. Now, if we go into the details, I'm sure some people, if they want to get enough information, that should be enough, the summary. But in the details, if we take a look at the Lanzhou, it does have really good range. It does have Soviet guns, if I'm not wrong. Cruiser dispersion, most likely. And if it does have a cruiser dispersion, which I believe so it will have, it also have high precision spotter, which for 30 seconds, just like for tier 9 cruiser Tianjin, is a very nice thing. And since it's Soviet guns on a Pan-Asian cruiser hull, it will devastate against cruisers. Like, it will do devastating damage. I like it that it's a unique ship, regardless of the gimmicks, which are kind of making it interesting. Still kind of, makes me interested to have this ship for tier 7. You can see here we have the 9 guns, 180mm. We will go and check the stats later on if they release it, what the penetration numbers are, which penetration numbers for Soviet cruisers that it does belong. We exactly don't know. I don't know that, but hopefully it does have really good penetration numbers. You do have again something which is a Pan-Asian gimmick, deep water torpedoes, 8km. I don't like that it only has like 8km torpedoes. It would be nice to have 10, but I can't complain. They still can work well, but these are only like 2x3, so only 3 torpedoes per side. So that is what Lanzhou really is. They will hit hard. It will do the notable thing about this ship, as what they are saying, that it does do really damage. Like, I know the wording can go pretty bizarre by wargaming standards when they say something like that. It allows you to threaten even the heaviest battleships you may face. Does it mean that it has Mikoyan guns? If you don't know about the Mikoyan, it's at tier 5, but it has having like insane penetration. I don't know what penetration numbers really are for this cruiser, but if it does have like really good penetration, that even it can sometimes citadel battleships with cruiser dispersion, and on top of that high precision spotter plane that also improves the dispersion by -10%. That can be very, very spicy, at least at tier 7, and maybe it can be somewhat useful in the ranks. But I don't like the hull. The hull itself is a very weak. They basically said that it's not having the tankiest of the armor profile like you find on Tianjin or /Riga. So that is something that Lanzhou really kind of looks like as of right now. And then we have the German cruiser Nurnberg at tier 7, which is simply a Nurnberg, okay, and it's at tier 7. That's simple as that. Maybe the extra things that you should really know, that it has like AP focused armament with good ballistics, penetration, and improved recoil angle. So I'm assuming that these penetration numbers would be slightly better, but won't be like crazy good. They still be good because again these are still Nurnberg guns, right? The AP looks promising, but again totally depends upon how good the shell velocity of these guns are. We will eventually find out. Although I'm not really interested in this ship. Would be nice if they would just give something a sort of a gimmick like they give to Lanzhou. Yes, it does have one more thing which I must say is good, that is short burst smoke generator. I think I just forget that. Now this thing can be really valuable, right? Because you can just smoke up, farm damage and disengage. So that's where it's definitely gonna be an upgrade. And then we have basically the hydro, so you won't be taking torpedoes, and then it's a German hydro, which is really nice. Or you can use defensive fire, and you can also use spotting aircraft as well as fighter on a 4th slot. It's interesting only because they somehow managed to give us short burst smoke generator, which is kind of like really good. It's a bit ridiculous because then you just get so much value. For a cruiser it becomes quite tanky, even though it's not having the best of the armor. And again, if it's a tier 6 hull of the German cruiser Nurnberg placed at tier 7, you know that it has really weak citadel deck plating. Citadel deck plating can be overmatched by, I think, 380mm guns. So yeah, you can basically take a stray shell and it hits the deck of the maybe the tier 6/tier 7 German cruiser here, and it can basically citadel you. So that's where it can definitely struggle. But it does also have improved torpedo range, 9.5 kilometer, 14.4k damage, but not a whole lot of torpedoes. But what I can say that Lanzhou still seems to be better, because at least in long ranges it will do well, but it's a lot more flexible. This ship is going to be a lot more flexible, but if you just misposition it, you're probably going to get punished. But the good thing is that it might also going to be available in those even passes in December. We will eventually see that, so that's nice. Now here comes the French battleship Roussillon. Roussillon. Sorry guys, again I apologize for how badly I use the word, or I would say this thing. You can always let me know in the comments how do you pronunciate that. That would be nice of you guys. So this battleship, I like this battleship for a couple of things. First of all, it's having Alsace hull, it having 9 guns, and if it does have the guns like you find on, I would say, the Champagne at tier 8, I find the Champagne guns to be the most powerful guns at tier 8 because they having like insane penetration. You can citadel battleships at long ranges, no problem whatsoever, and that dispersion, I think that's where it might kind of struggles. But I think that it might have a battlecruiser dispersion. I exactly don't know. The maximum dispersion at this range seems to be a bit like battlecruiser, but I don't know. The Sigma value is nice for 9 guns, but the reload time is one of the things that they kind of balancing this ship. Like, as you can see, if I see the reload time here, there must be, yeah, look at the reload time, 36 seconds. And by the way, we just recently got a buff on Alsace, or I would say its counterpart, which is a Pan-Asian premium of Alsace. I don't exactly remember the name, but yeah, it does have 30 seconds of reload time. This ship with 9 guns now having 36 seconds. So massive difference. But if the guns are Champagne, if they will be Champagne, I am genuinely interested. And by the way, if you haven't seen, UrAvgWarGamer has kind of said in their own games area that this, I'm not gonna say this, but a tier 9 premium ship they will be giving in the Santa event for free. They were basically advertising it. If maybe I can show you, but they have advertised that the tier 9 free premium they are giving us for, like, in this Santa event. So I wonder if that's the battleship that they are trying to give us, because I know that the Indiana will be available before that, and that's the only tier 9 that we are testing. So if we get this ship for free in the Santa event, I am in, guys. I am really in. Damn, that would be really nice. Or maybe it can be a dockyard ship as well. It can also be a dockyard ship. Now they are also adding the Lucian bead, but this can also be potentially a dockyard ship. We will eventually find out. You can see the engine boost parameters, 15% speed. It does have 32 knots of speed base, 15%, and brisk probably gonna take it to 40 knots. And then you have 5 charges of main battery reload booster, and then you also have spotting aircraft. Kinda really make me think whether it is Champagne guns indeed or not. So that is how this battleship really looks like. And then we have the German cruiser Bremen. I think it's pretty much the good old mains at tier 10. That's what I can say, with a lot of guns, Okay, improved and HE penetration. We all know it's 38 millimeter pen. So you basically pen American battleships with these HE shells, which is pretty nice. And the AP should do really well, as the Germans really do well with the AP. If you shoot it on broadside, I like Hindenburg a lot because of that. So Bremen will do more damage over time because the AP should also be pretty good. Look at that, 3.9k alpha. The fire chance is okay. Again, mains guns at tier 10, a lot of them. But here's the thing that kind of makes me more interested in. That is that you have the usable torpedoes. Unlike mains that have very limited range, you do have now better torpedoes and quite a lot of them. So I think you can send like 10 torpedoes on each side, right? If I'm not wrong. So yeah, you can get some value from the torpedoes when kiting away, which is nice. And then you do have the speed, which again is very unimpressive. Something that can make it struggle, but I believe, and I hope they don't do that. If they suddenly give it a speed boost, which by the way during testing of Blucher, they have suddenly give it the speed boost to basically make it a lot much more tankier, speed juking extra. If they do this with the Bremen, that would be very interesting. As of right now, the speed is really lacking and not that impressive at all. And then the available consumables are pretty much typical, except that the range, I think, is 17.8 kilometer. Range is pretty decent, 18.1 kilometer, which is nice. And then you do have the spotter plane, right? So you can have like almost 20 kilometer range, which is slightly more than that. So that can be a very good combo. And then you have the hydro defensive air fire, all those usual stuff. Then we have the Japanese battleship Aki. So the thing about the Aki, which I really like, is that it has 6 guns and it's situated on the front, which means you can just stay fully bowing and can utilize the best of the armor that Yamato class give in the game. Because what's the problem with the Yamato is, once you're using the third turret, which is the turret at the back, you will actually start to showcase a bit of the side armor. This side armor plating, as you can see, this is 32 millimeter. We do have the citadel plating here, which you can see it's kind of like bulging out, but you do have this 32 millimeter plating, which can be penned by most cruisers which having 203 millimeter guns. But the moment you get like fully bow and angle, not giving a side whatsoever, you can be extremely tanky, because then 57 millimeter deck armor can just come into play so much more and kind of makes it super tanky, very resistant to HE shells, and Aki can't really use that. And also the thing about the Aki is that if you look at these stats, you do have the Yamato guns, 466 of them. They have already said that it has, I think it has better dispersion. It's not having the battleship dispersion. You can see the range is 26.1 kilometer, but you can see here that its dispersion is actually lower. If you look at the Yamato, maybe, if I go into the ship parameters, I was looking at the Champagne stats. If you look at the Yamato, and if we take a look at the main battery range at around 26 kilometer, as you can see, if we go to the 25 kilometer, we have 264 meter horizontal dispersion, okay, with 2.1 sigma. So it's high, right? It's higher than this. As you can see, from 26.1 kilometer, it has 246 meter maximum dispersion. So it's definitely better, 110% better than Yamato in terms of dispersion ellipse. So it must have a battle cruiser dispersion ellipse on 2.1 sigma. Oh my god. So it's definitely gonna make me think why you want to pick Shikishima. And also it has planes, so you can spot destroyers for yourself. You can actually spot destroyers for yourself with these really good guns as well. And you also have the better range. And you, again, the same thing, torpedo protection is like amazing, and all those things that Yamato gets. And you don't need to show the cheek, right? The cheek is the most vulnerable thing of Yamato. You get citadel from those cheek, and that's what they are also kind of advertising it in this whole thing. So I like it. The bombs are not like the bombs that you find on the Kaga. These are not the Kaga planes, or I would say the bombs. These are less damaging bombs. I wonder what those bombs are. Are they really new to, like the HE dive bombers? I don't know. But these are absolutely dive bombers. They can do a lot decent against destroyers, because you can see you can have 8 planes on the size of attacking flight, and you have 2 bombs in payload, which means you have 16 bombs. Deal less damage, but you still be doing a lot of damage because you throw so many bombs. 16 bombs with 5.5k damage. I wonder what's the dispersion ellipse looks like. What is that ellipse that, or the reticle that the dive bombers will have for the Aki, this Japanese battleship? And then the same stuff. And yeah, it does not have those Shikishima guns. You can see here 155mm, 127mm, so it might not be utilized for secondaries. That's what I believe, but I don't really care about the secondary armament. The maneuverability, pretty much Yamato class. Concealment, pretty much similar. It does not have now access to spotter plane, so that is something which is kind of a downside. I would be happy to have extra range with the spotter plane, and you can get slightly better dispersion, vertical dispersion if you have the spotter plane running up. I mean, it does have some, sort of hidden mechanics that you get extra range. The moment you get extra range, the moment you get more, I would say, overall better vertical dispersion. But yeah, that's what Aki really looks like. And then last but not least, we have the American cruiser, a surface ship, obviously. Then we will come to the submarine as well, Hawaii. So Hawaii is basically a Alaska class hull and having actually pretty decent HP, 71,000 HP. Fire duration is actually like that of Alaska, or I would say the Puerto Rico. But on the other hand, what they have given this cruiser in return is just tons of guns. Look at that. That's an insane amount of guns. 127mm destroyer guns on Alaska hull, and I would say Alaska hull can do somewhat better compared to Des Moines, because then you do have that 36mm deck armor, so that can be resistant to overmatch. But again, Alaska still takes damage, I must say, but it will be slightly maybe resistant compared to Des Moines, but you don't have that 30 seconds of fire duration, which again questions about the survivability of this cruiser. Gonna be a bit weird, but the good thing is that it has a lot of DPM, a lot of guns, even though destroyer caliber guns. And I wonder if these guns are basically those of Austin, because you do have a massive 18.3 kilometer range. So that's what I believe, and I totally know that if they give gearing guns on this cruiser Hawaii, these guns will not work. This range will be terrible. The shells will just gonna be going and just never gonna land. It will take years to get those shells landed onto the target if we are having the gearing guns. So they must be Austin guns, okay? Because Austin guns are pretty decent with the shell velocity. They are reliable to hit even at the long ranges. So, and also the range is pretty good. And probably the Des Moines is crying in the corner. I have only 15.8 kilometer range, and even Annapolis has slightly better. But yeah, Des Moines must be thinking like, why a new ship gets better range than me? What can I say, man? This is wargaming. And then we have alternate firing mode, which even boosts the reload time like crazy. You have the 6 seconds of reload time, by the way, on these guns, right? And then you have alternate firing mode, which basically reduce the reload time to half. Now I wonder, they basically said here up in the description that these guns, if you are using the alternate firing mode, they will give a boost to reload time, but it will have a significantly reduced main battery range and altered ballistics. And I wonder if these altered ballistics are those of gearing. Very much possible that if you are at maybe mid to close range, around 12 kilometer, 11 kilometer, maybe whatever that range is that they are basically saying here, you get the gearing guns. Suddenly you basically switch it to the gearing shell ballistics, which can be pretty weird, but we will see what wargaming will do with this ship. And then if we take a look at the available consumables, and by the way, the consumable is also not that impressive. I think it's kind of having the Alaska class concealment, should be having Alaska concealment, 12.2 kilometer, I'm assuming, if you fully built for it, if I'm not wrong. And then available consumables, repair party, pretty much typical. You do have a lot of HP, but then yeah, you take a lot of fire damage as well because of 60 seconds of fires. Hydroacoustic search, defensive air fire, not special, surveillance radar. This is the Salem radar, by the way, which having less range, so it's not Des Moines radar. So at least Des Moines gets like At least it does not get 10-kilometer radar like I have. So it's not getting power crept in this way, except that it still gets Salem radar, which is still very impressive considering it's a cruiser that can somehow now counter destroyers as well with these guns as well. Yeah, this is what Hawaii is. And honestly, if I have to really pick between Hawaii and the Bremen, I will pick Hawaii because you do have the radar, so you can counter DDs and it can do well more in the ranked battles compared to randoms. Just because of that. Maybe in the randoms, the Bremen might do or damage far more very comfortably, but Hawaii seems to be a bit more interesting to me. And then last but not least, the most interesting ship of all time is coming, and that is French cruiser Surcouf. Now this, not the cruiser, it's the submarine, by the way. I'm sorry, I just accidentally said that word. But Surcouf as a submarine, having the best HP pool at tier 10, I think no submarine is even close to that of HP pool. I think we have the I-5644 that has like 25.6 HP. It has 31,600 HP, which is pretty nuts. And by the way, that French saturation mechanics that just makes submarines super tanky, even if you are shooting so many HE shells. Yeah, it can make this even more tankier because of this massive HP pool. Honestly, this is so much more HP. It's better than most destroyers in the game. And we having the French submarine having that massive HP is kinda nuts. But again, this is typical wargaming fashion balancing. And then we have the artillery, which again is wow, 13.5 kilometer range. I mean, I wonder if someone will try to just set fire by hiding behind the island and trying to farm the battleship at long ranges by just, shooting the shells over the islands, because I am definitely assuming someone will do that with this submarine. And then you have the airstrike, which is now the reason why they have given the plane-based airstrike, which means that you can just deploy that airstrike like you do on cruisers or battleships, whatever. The reason is that it does not have access to, I would say, those sonar and ping-based torpedoes. So you cannot ping any destroyer. You cannot ping any destroyer, nor cruiser or battleship, and even submarine if you want to counter them. So they have given a counter to submarine, which is the airstrike, okay, which is kind of sensible, and I can understand if you don't give a counter against a submarine, which can be very complicated sometimes if you are fighting with the submarine while using submarine surveillance. That airstrike can be still a lot much more flexible, right? Because sometimes aiming those torpedoes and getting them landed with the ping can be difficult because he can DCP. This can't be DCP. This can directly land onto a destroyer. Onto a submarine. So that is a good advantage. And then we have the torpedoes. These are alternate torpedoes, by the way. These are not homing tops, just like I said. Alternate torpedoes, good old 12-kilometer range. So you basically play it without pinging, and this can be pretty lethal because if a submarine does not ping you, it can be more stealthier than destroyer because it does have 2-kilometer concealment. No one can spot you in periscope depth unless someone pushes you around 2 kilometers. So you are stupidly stealthy, and radar cannot touch you. So and there are very low submarine surveillance radar cruisers. No destroyer, I think, has a submarine surveillance. There's only one battleship which is at tier 7 that have access to submarine surveillance. Cruisers have submarine surveillance, so the possibility for this submarine Surcouf doing good in the game is high under the hands of a skilled player. I can tell you that. And then we have the available consumables. Submarine surveillance, 6 kilometers. So if you spot the sub, you can actually use the ASW strike onto that guy. And then you have the main battery load booster, which kind of is so ridiculous. Now the thing about the main battery load booster and the gun that they have given, that you can basically come out at any point. There is a Moskva, maybe there's a Minotaur, and if you know, maybe the Minotaur, I would say, if there's a Minotaur, he has plane-based ASW, he cannot drop you or do anything at range. There is no battleship around. Now, obviously, there are a lot of ifs, but then you can get to the broadside and you can just use that main battery guns and use main battery load booster, and you can just devastate that Minotaur. that is one instance of using this ridiculous thing. On the other hand, because you do have a massive HP and you have French saturation, which is by the way built into the submarines, which means that if you're using this main battery load booster, which is having the massive I would say main battery recharge time, like it just reduced the reload time by minus 75%. I have checked it and I find out that it has 170k DPM, HE DPM on a submarine gun. Oh my the balance is out of the way, bros. There's no balance. Wargaming's like, nope, we will find a submarine for you that kind of works like a destroyer, but having the submarine benefits and also having the gun in a submarine that can counter a destroyer with 170k GTPM. Now think with your brain and just if you have this submarine, that destroyer will have no way to win this. And by the way, it's surface. Look at the surface detection, 5.7. You know the I-5644 has 7.2 kilometer concealment, and that is a big submarine like the Surcouf. Surcouf is where's the Surcouf? It's also a massive sub, and it still have 5.7 kilometer detection. Like very stealthy submarine, to be honest. So yeah, good luck fighting with this ship, man. This ship can outspot you and can farm you with the main battery load booster for 10 seconds for sure. Like for 10 seconds you will definitely gonna chew our destroyer HP in no time. And then you have the engine, typical engine French gimmick. Well, Archerfish does also have that gimmick, but it has better duration, better speed, and you know, you do have a lot of charges, 4 charges if you are using this, I would say Superintendent. So that is what Surcouf really is. Oh my god, Wargaming is like, oh, the balance is not gonna be found. 404 error, bros. Yeah. And then this is the older pan American cruiser that they now showed us because of the camouflage. So yeah. And then the epic rarity, I have talked about that in the last video. Bridgeport, Indiana, epic rarity for like 75% of the ships here you can see are having the epic rarity. Having the epic rarity, 75% of the ship. So uncommon ships are completely gone. There will most likely going to be no uncommon ships that you find in a premium in this game later on. Congratulations, you will now pay more for just having this feature which showed us the epic rarity. So yeah, that is what it really looks like. I hope you guys like it. If you find this video useful, if you find all the information important, and I have, you know, explained you guys in detail and also in brief, nicely and quietly, why not subscribe? And thank you guys for watching at the end. Take care, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace out.